The Israelite city of Bethulia stood on the brink of collapse. A vast Assyrian army, led by the ruthless general Holofernes, had laid siege to the city. Their supplies were dwindling, their spirits were broken. The very existence of Israel hung precariously in the balance. Fear gripped the hearts of the besieged Israelites. Their prayers seemed to go unanswered as Holofernes tightened his grip on their city. The water supply was cut off and famine started to consume the city. The elders of Bethulia, their faces etched with despair, gathered at the gate. They debated their options, each one more hopeless than the last. Surrender seemed inevitable. To defy Holofernes was to invite certain death, but to submit meant abandoning their faith, their freedom, and their very identity. The air was thick with desperation. The fate of Israel rested on a knife's edge. Amidst the encroaching despair, a beacon of hope emerged. Her name was Judith, a widow of striking beauty and unshakable faith. Known for her piety and wisdom, Judith was a woman who embodied courage and resolve. Her heart was heavy with the suffering of her people. She refused to surrender to the overwhelming despair that threatened to engulf her city. Judith believed in the God of Israel, a God who had delivered his people time and again. She spent days in prayer and fasting, seeking guidance and strength for her people. She knew that their only hope lay in divine intervention. With unwavering faith, she resolved to become an instrument of God's deliverance. The fate of her people rested upon her shoulders, and she would not falter. Judith conceived a daring plan, a gamble that would require extraordinary courage and unwavering faith. She would venture into the heart of the enemy camp, into the very tent of Holofernes. Her beauty, she reasoned, would be her weapon, and her faith, her shield. She shared her plan with the elders. They were skeptical, afraid. Could this woman, even with all her faith, achieve what seemed impossible? Judith, her voice unwavering, assured them of God's favor. She would rely on her cunning, her charm, and above all, the power of her God. Her convictions swayed the elders. With trepidation, they agreed to her plan, placing their trust in her hands and their hope in the divine. Adorned in her finest garments, Judith, accompanied by her loyal maidservant, left the besieged city. They made their way through the enemy lines, their hearts pounding with every step. They reached the Assyrian camp, a sea of tents and soldiers, a tangible representation of their enemy's might. As Judith had anticipated, her beauty captivated the Assyrian soldiers. They escorted her to Holofernes, the fearsome general, who was instantly smitten by her charm. He welcomed her into his tent, eager to hear the words of this captivating woman who had dared to enter his stronghold. Judith played her part to perfection, weaving tales of her people's supposed surrender and her desire to serve the mighty Holofernes. Her eyes, however, held a secret, a glimmer of steel, hidden beneath the surface of feigned submission.